Dude, so the U.S. Department of Justice alleges that Tenet Media, which has Benny Johnson, Tim Pool, and Dave Rubin on its roster, received $10 million from the Russian government to publish content as part of a Russian influence operation. Tenet is owned and controlled by Lauren Chen, who is affiliated with TP USA, and her husband, Liam Donovan. Dude, this is crazy, guys. $10 million, this company that is heavily tied to all of the right-wing influencers. And oddly enough, we got Trump, who is a huge Putin shill. We know that Trump has deep ties to Russia. It was all over his 2016 campaign with him, giving classified information to people. And this whole thing just stinks to high heaven, as my mom used to say. So 2 RT employees indicted for covertly funding and directing U.S. company that published thousands of videos in furtherance of Russian interests. We don't know how deep this shit goes, but we do know a couple of things. We do know that a lot of right-wing media has been echoing some of this Russian propaganda stuff around the Ukraine. A lot of it is anti-NATO propaganda, but they also do some trying to influence racial tension and any type of political tension that they can exacerbate here. So employees of Russia state-controlled media outlet deployed nearly 10 million to publish RT curated content, which garnered millions of views through a Tennessee-based online creation company. And now the Tennessee-based company they're talking about is Tenet Media. Here's Tenet Media. This is their roster. Lauren Southern, Tim Pool, Taylor Hanson, Matt Christensen, Dave Rubin, Benny Johnson. Now, dude, these guys, this is a small company that also, though, has an extraordinary amount of power in the right-wing sphere. And now it's looking like they have that because of some Russian money. Between October 2023 and August of 2024, RT sent wire transfers to U.S. Company One totaling $9.7 million, which represented 90% of their bank deposits from all sources combined, which is wild because that's telling you that this outfit, Tenet Media, all of their income was coming from Russia. 90%. Wow, dude. If 90% is coming from one source, your entire business is that source, man. Fearless voices live here. It says Tenet Media is a network of heterodox commentators that focus on Western political and cultural issues. But look at that mission statement, though, in the wake of what we're finding out. It's pretty wild. They focus on Western political and cultural issues, but we're finding out they were taking huge amounts of money from Russia, supporting creators who question the institutions in those Western political and cultures. But the truth is coming to light, bro. Super toxic. And they are all deeply embedded in the right-wing media culture. Now, we know specifically some of these guys, like I see Benny Johnson on Twitter all the time. And this guy is the biggest purveyor of crazy misinformation. Like, everything about his shtick is so fraudulent. It's so fraudulent. Even on today, the day this indictment drops, Benny's pinned tweet is this photograph claiming it's Tim Walz's entire family voting for Trump. It turns out that it's actually a lie. These are distant cousins of Tim Walz. Tim Walz's own sister doesn't even recognize any of these people. Just a classic example of the type of blatant misinformation that these guys are just pumping out all day long. And now finding out that some of these guys are actually being funded by a foreign government is truly alarming, because you do have to wonder how many other MAGA influencers are involved in this. But these guys are tied into all of the hardcore right-wing media. Let's just look at some of the content these guys are making. This is Tim Pool talking about Ukraine and Russia.
This is psychotic. Ukraine is the enemy of this country. Ukraine is our enemy, being funded by the Democrats. I will stress this again. One of the greatest enemies of our nation right now is Ukraine.
Timmy!
They are expanding this war. Now, don't get me wrong. I know you've got criminal elements of the U.S. government pushing them and guiding them and telling them what to do. Ukraine is now accused, a German warrant issued for blowing up the Nord Stream pipeline, triggering this conflict. Ukraine is the greatest threat to this nation and to the world. We should rescind all funding and financing, pull out all military support, and we should apologize to Russia. And they know it.
Dude, wow. Right? When you look at that, and now we find out that the company that reps these guys, that they're all in bed with, 90% of their money's coming from Russia. Dude, it's straight up propaganda. It's not even being aloof. Like, that is direct propaganda. Now, of course, Tim Pool and Benny Johnson are like trying to distance themselves from this, as you might imagine. But this is it, to amplify domestic divisions in the United States. And these guys, all of these content creators, are divisive. President Trump is the only man who can save America. Now, that's crazy. What kind of a weirdo says that? There's no way he really believes that, is there? It's right out of the cover for a dictator. The only man who can save America is Donald Trump. Donald Trump needs to suspend the Constitution because that's the only way he can save America. Donald Trump needs to round up all the LGBTQ people because they're trying to trans your kids, because that's the only way to save America, right? You see how that shit goes? I mean, it's Germany, dude, 1933, boss. And look at his statement. Look at what he said. He said the leaked DOJ indictment, but this is not leaked. It's on their website. But you see how he says leaked? He says, a year ago, a media startup pitched my company to provide content as an independent contractor. Our lawyers negotiated a standard arm's length deal, which was later terminated. We are disturbed by the allegations, which make clear that myself and other influencers were victims, is what he's saying, in this alleged scheme. His lawyers will handle anyone who states or suggests otherwise. So now he's like threatening too. You see that? My lawyers will handle anyone who suggests otherwise. They're trying to get behind the whole lawsuit threat, which is typical. Ooh, be careful what you say. But Benny Johnson, bro. Seriously, this guy. Tim Pool, too. My statement regarding allegations in the DOJ indictment, should these allegations prove true, I, as well as the other personalities and commentators, were deceived and are victims. Threatening legal action is pretty telling, especially considering that these guys' whole shtick is like accusing people of shit, right? Like Benny Johnson's whole shtick is to accuse Kamala of something, to accuse some influencer of something, to accuse, politicians of something. His entire shtick is being accusatory, often on like half-checked information or total supposition. But the minute he's under the gun, he like throws in this threat about lawyers, right? It's real telling. These guys, they're fucking cowards and they're fucking clowns, bro. This is super dirty. There's a whole bunch of videos here on Tenet's YouTube channel. This entire set is pro-Trump, anti-Democratic Party, big on the culture war. I mean, look at the shit they're doing, though. Look at this content. Isn't this funny about them using this Russian shit for Kamala while they're taking Russian money? I mean, that shit is crazy, dude. A lot of it is anti-trans, and obviously you see it's anti-APAC, anti-COVID. This is suggesting that Joe Biden is deep-faked, like all kinds of nefarious shit. It's crazy to me that the right-wing narrative, we are now finding out, is essentially pretty much funded by Russia. When Russia is funding some media shit in America, they're not funding left-wing stuff, guys. Isn't that weird? right? The dictatorship is funding the right-wing narrative. So there you go. I mean, we know this. Obviously, like, human rights are never a bad thing. Oh, shit, bro. Dude, Rubin blocked me, boss. Dave Rubin blocked me. Of course he did. I guess he's feeling a little sensitive about this connection here. This was the tweet that got me blocked. You're so cooked. Blindly passing along disinformation propaganda. The big picture is all coming together. That got me blocked. It's fairly innocuous, but he was trying to say, oh, I'm a victim. And I'm like, dude, you're cooked. But I think the thing that really, this is the larger view. What is the dictatorship paying for? They're paying for the right wing. Anti-LGBTQ, anti-immigration, Democrats are demons, all fraud. It's like the whole right-wing culture war is that fascism-approved message. So that's what's crazy about it. All right-wingers have to look at this. And they're saying, oh, they weren't told what to say. Nobody, like, programmed him to what to say. But it's like, hey, man, the shit you're saying every day happens to be the same shit they're buying. So if you're really an American, if you're really a patriot, why is your worldview parroting these Russian dictators? Because I tell you what, I'm not. I'm out here talking politics. I'm out here fighting for trans people and for women and for, you know, reproductive rights. But that happens to not be the shit that the Russian dictators are paying for. So I'm actually kind of on the right side of the human equation. But you toxic motherfuckers on the right wing, you guys are on the dictator side. So fuck you. I think this is a huge story, guys. This is beyond just Tim Pool and Tenet Media. It's the fact that we're starting to realize that a lot of the right-wing media culture is perfectly aligned with Russian-funded shit. So Russia is funding these culture war bitches. And every right-wing influencer in America right now needs to be taking a serious look at themselves. But we're on the right side of history here, bro. We're going to bring down these fucking fascist motherfuckers. So the wires were coming from all these foreign countries. Were often accompanied by wire notes ascribing the payments to the purchase of electronics. 318,000 wire payment from a shell entity in Turkey to U.S. company on one read buying goods invoice 013 iPhone 15 Pro Max 512 GB. So look at that though. They're taking wire payments for fake things. So Tenet Media was like, the whole thing is shady. So here's our indictment. Founder 1 and Founder 2 also worked together to deceive two U.S. online commentators, Commentator 1 and Commentator 2, 2.4 and 1.3 million YouTube subscribers. Tim Pool is 1.3 million, 1.37. Benny Johnson, 2.3. Dude, we know who they're talking about, right? 2.4 and 1.3 million. Do we have Dave Rubin? Oh, so we don't know which guy it is. It could be Rubin. It could be Rubin and Tim Pool and not Benny Johnson and Tim Pool because Dave Rubin has 2.4. So you have the founders and the Russian assets, and they are making deals with the commentators. That's Benny and Tim Pool. And they're feeding them large amounts of money from a fictional private investor. Like, those guys aren't checking who this private investor is, right? They're saying how they were duped, but how shady is it for people to take this large amount of money from this company that is funded by some private investor? So they have the fake founder. Founder 1 sends Commentator 1 a one-page profile purporting to represent Edward Gregorian as an accomplished finance professional and held various positions in Brussels and France at a multinational bank. After receiving the fictitious profile, Commentator 1 agreed to work with Company 1, produce 130 videos published on Company 1's platform. A one-page profile. That's what happened. What I find crazy about it is how shady it was from the founders aspect. Lauren Chen, she's involved in TP USA. This is Charlie Kirk's org here. So she started Tenet Media, but they were taking fake money deposits. This woman, part of TP USA, part of Tenet Media, they were getting hundreds of thousands of dollars from shell companies in Saudi Arabia, in UAE. It was like legitimate fraud. She definitely knew that she was taking dirty money. It's crazy, though, the shit that people will do for money. Like, people are so corruptible. On or about February 8th of 2023, commentator one said it would need to be closer to $5 million yearly for him to be interested, and commentator two said $100K per weekly episode to make it worth his while. One of these commentators was asking for $5 million a year. The other one was asking for $100K a week. So they were both asking like basically the same amount, in the neighborhood of $5 million. And this is why I guess I don't absolve the commentators, is because somebody comes to you and says they're paying you $5 million a year to make some videos for them. You know that's massive amounts of money. Like, who is this mystery influencer that's giving us $5 million to make some videos about Ukraine and like the US culture war? Like, how suspicious is that? Who would take $5 million to make some videos from some unknown source heavily tied to like the culture wars in the US and not wonder like, where is this money coming from? On or about February 17th, so this is like 10 days later, the parties arranged a call between commentator 2 and Edward Gregorian, which took place around the 22nd. Commentator 2 requested that Edward Gregorian call their cell phone. Instead, Persona 2 asked the call take place on WhatsApp or Zoom. They wanted encrypted. So Founder 1 is like, I want you to call my cell phone. And they're like, no, let's do it on WhatsApp. And they're like, oh, all right. $5 million still incoming, right? $5 million, the guy won't get on a cell phone with you. I mean, it's not suspicious at all. Like, hey, you're going to pay me $5 million to talk about like trans people being demonic and Ukraine being the world's biggest enemy, but you can't call my cell phone. We got to do it on the message on, like, we got to use a voice changer on an encrypted WhatsApp call. Like, oh, shit. You're going to... $5 million's gonna be buried in a wooden box, like out by the lake. But yeah, nothing suspicious here, bro. This is cool. Like, why does you know what I mean? Why is the envelope with the $5 million in it written in Arabic, bro? Like, something's not feeling right about this arrangement. You know what I'm saying? Oh shit, bro. Oh, that's funny, dude. What it said, a heterodox network of heterodox commentators that focus on Western political and cultural issues funded by Eastern Bloc money is what it is, right? Oh, Lordy. Again, dude, this is the thing that really hits home for me is the fact that we are seeing, like, regardless of whether commentator 1 or 2, if that's Ruben and Tim Pool or Benny Johnson and Tim Pool, regardless of if they knew, okay, even if they were blind to the fact that they were being duped, you know, they're taking $5 million from this mystery guy that no Google search turns up any information. They had to know something was suspicious, but beyond all of that, even if they were that naive and that out there that they just don't even know what the they're doing, they are now coming to realize that the primary right-wing conservative viewpoint in America that they all share is, in fact, a Russian propaganda point. Like, how do they reconcile that now? Are they going to question their viewpoints that, like, oh shit, we were getting paid to distribute Russian propaganda and it was saying the same shit we say about the border? You think they're having like a reckoning moment? Like, what are you guys gonna do about this shit? Are some of you gonna wake up and stop with this propaganda lines? Because what we're finding out is anti-immigration, anti-LGBTQ, the media narratives that are portraying all the Democrats as demons and all this shit. We're talking about Benny Johnson. We're talking about Tim Pool. We're talking about Matt Walsh, libs of TikTok. We are talking about Jack Posobiec, TPUSA, Charlie Kirk, all of these motherfuckers and their cohorts in right-wing political culture. They're all spreading shit that's being funded by Russia. Shocking, isn't it? That the people that want to like squash LGBTQ rights and are trying to make a huge deal about trans people being dangerous, that all this shit is funded by Russia. Huh? That's weird, isn't it? It's almost like the people advocating for civil rights and for freedom to love who you want and be who you want. That like we've not been bullshitting the whole time. I'm not funded by Russia. None of the narratives or whatever the worldview that you want to accuse me of is being funded by Russia. And again, they're saying they were duped, and even this is implying that they were duped. But let me just pose a question here that I'm wondering about. Is now that Tim Pool and Dave Rubin, or Tim Pool, Benny Johnson, whatever, these Tenet Media people that are obviously spreading a lot of this culture war shit, are any of those guys now having like alarm bells go off in their head of like saying like, wow, why is it that my worldview lines up with this Russian propaganda? Like that Tim Pool clip that we watched? I mean, that shit's weird, bro. Would you at any point think like, goddamn, if all the views I'm expressing on my YouTube channel are the same views that Russian propaganda is trying to spread here in America, that kind of tells you that maybe the shit you're spreading might be faulty, right? You know what I mean? Like, I'm pro-LGBTQ. Why? Because it's human rights. I want all people to have human rights. Those right-wing influencers are anti-LGBTQ. The Russian propaganda is all about anti-LGBTQ and making LGBTQ sort of like the enemy. That's the whole culture war. So if the Russian propaganda is the same as your worldview is probably a little suspect. Like there's none of my worldview right now is in line with any Russian propaganda. Even though I might get called a communist. They call Kamala Harris a communist, but they're the ones literally spreading Russian propaganda. Huh. That's weird.